Thank you. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown of Ozone 5. And if any of you have any questions at any point, just stop me and let me know, or at the end you can do questions as well. But Ozone 5 is basically, it's our newest product, and it's what we call a complete mastering system. It's Mac and Windows compatible, AU, VST, you can use it in Pro Tools and Logic. It's not a standalone mastering tool, it's something that we would use on the mix bus of our DAW. And so Ozone 4 is actually our biggest release ever in terms of how much we put into the product. And so I'm going to give you a quick rundown too of what's changed between 4 and 5, which if any of you are 4 users, might encourage you to check out 5. There is a 10-day free trial of our product on the website. So definitely after this, go home, download it, check it out if you don't already have it. So the first thing to mention is that Ozone 5 and Ozone 5 Advanced, they're 2 separate products. We've now split Ozone in 2. Ozone 5 Advanced sounds the same with the same DSP as Ozone 5, the difference being it just has slightly more control. So as I'm doing a demo, if I'm using a feature that is advanced only, I'll let you know, so you're under no illusions. So the first thing you'll probably notice is that we have 2 EQs now. We have a pre-EQ and a post-EQ, which is a change from Ozone 4, because we realized that people like to EQ things maybe before and after the dynamics processing. And we've made a few changes to the equalizer as well. The first being with a focus for Ozone 5 on increased visual tools, visual representation of what's going on. You'll notice if I go, I probably should turn this on, show extra curves. So with the EQ, we have an analog modeling mode, and in the analog domain, as you know, if we make a change, we're affecting the phase response of our signal. So if we're modeling that in software, we can also now add these phase response curves. So you'll see as I make a change, we have these extra curves that show what you're doing effectively to the phase of your signal, which is something we put in with Ozone 5. You'll notice too, we have a digital EQ, and it's both a minimum phase and a linear phase, and also with Ozone 5 Advanced, it's now what we call a mixed phase EQ, which is really cool. So if I have, if I want to treat my low end with a linear phase EQ, I can now do so, at the same time as treating my high end with a minimum phase EQ. Each node has a different phase, and I'll show you how that works. If I was bringing up this end, give it a little bit of a higher Q, you'll notice I can also change the phase of just this node. And that doesn't affect any of the other nodes. I can do the same for this guy, and I can center the ringing before or afterwards. So that's a really cool feature, and both equalizers are exactly the same, and also every module within Ozone now is a stereo, mid-side, or left-right process. That's up to you to choose. And whereas before, if you chose mid-side processing, the entire of Ozone would be mid-side. Each module is now distinct. It does the encoding and the decoding for you, so you can choose when and where you want to do that. Switch back to stereo. The reverb we've changed hugely since Ozone 4. The way it works is actually a convolution reverb for the early reflections, and we have several impulses to choose from on the left. But the rest of it, the reverb tail, is algorithmic. So it's the best of both worlds. We have the convolution, the impulse, but we can also have control of the decay time without having to go in there and choose a different impulse. And the reverb was one of the big things that people wanted improved about Ozone 4, so we've really done that. With Ozone 5 Advanced, each individual module is also available as a separate plugin. So if you just like the reverb, or just like the limiter, or the EQ, but you don't want the rest of Ozone and you want to mix and match with other third-party plugins, you can now do that. And I use the reverb on my mix bus quite a lot. The harmonic exciter, and in fact all of our multi-band modules, we've added a really useful feature. If you right-click on the multi-band crossover view and choose Learn, it actually listens to my audio. Oh, hang on. In theory. You know what? There we go. Try again. Okay, I guess that's a little bug. I do apologize. I'll try it. Right here. Okay. So on a good day, and this would happen. Last presentation is now. We have a right-click learn feature, and that actually listens to your audio as it comes in real time. and it makes a very good guess as to where each crossover should fall. And you can also tweak that afterwards. And if you don't believe me, check it out on the kiosk afterwards. We're running Macs there, and I prefer them. But PC is great too. We love everybody. So anyway, the Harmonic Exciter, we've added a few really cool things. We've added some circuit model tube modes, and whereas in Ozone 4, we weren't really doing it properly. If we added harmonics, we were basically just making them louder, instead of making an intelligent guess as to, okay, well, what actually happens in this circuit versus that circuit. So we've included inside Ozone, there's some circuit model diagrams that really recreate the behavior of both a tape mode or a tube mode. And I mean, shoot, we may as well see if we can hear the difference. So you can probably hear the triode and dual triode modes. They really recreate the punch of a tube circuit quite well. So you can check that out for yourself at home, give that a try. The dynamics module, we can now look at every single band simultaneously just by clicking show all. You can see them side by side. You can make individual changes, or you can link them up here and make overall changes to your compression. We also have this gain reduction trace. It now shows you gain reduction over time, so you can see exactly how it's affecting your waveform. And I use this to set my release time and my attack time, so I can already see my compressor is recovering in time. My release time is probably much too high. If I drag this down, I can now see every time I hit a peak, it recovers much quicker. So that's a really useful tool. Bring that down. And also with Ozone 5 Advanced, we've included a detection circuit filter, so you can filter the input to your compressor with either a variable slope high-pass filter, or we have this tilt filter. I personally do like to throw a lot of extra high-end in my compressor, but not so much low-end. So personal preference, but we have this tilt filter to do that, and we can adjust quite how much we're doing that. The stereo imaging tool is now it's a mono compatible stereo imaging tool. If we click this button here, the stereoize button, what that actually does, it creates a mono compatible widening effect, so that if you're mastering something maybe for use in a club system or anywhere where it's likely to be sub to mono, you can be sure you're not going to get comb filtering and phasing that you otherwise would, which is really cool. With the limiter, we've added this IRC3 algorithm. What that actually does, it runs 4 limiters simultaneously, and it chooses at any given, so it does induce some latency because it's looking ahead, and it's choosing at any given moment the one with the least detectable distortion, and choosing that one. So it's a really great sounding limiter, and you can definitely crank this guy up, pushing quite hard. You'll see up top we have this gain reduction tracer here. We also have, if I decided to dither, not that we'd hear that right now, but we have several different types of dither noise shapes. You can look at those too. We've also got 2 new guys over here. Transient recovery is Ozone Advanced only, and it's just a look ahead. It protects peaks as they come into the limiter to avoid crushing the signal completely. The stereo link was originally Ozone Advanced, but we're now just putting in Ozone 5 too. It's at 100% or off. It's treating the stereo image as one entity and limiting it accordingly. Anywhere other than that, and if you get all the way down to 0, it treats them separately and limits them independently of one another, which is a really useful feature to have. So those are some of the things in Ozone 5 and Ozone 5 Advanced in terms of DSP, things that sound a lot better and work a lot better. And you'll notice on the screen behind me, which I can't actually see, so I'm going to have to turn around, we have this new thing called the meter bridge. So I can turn it on and off. It's that button right there under the volume control. It's a fully resizable and configurable breakout metering view. Now this is Ozone 5 Advanced only. It's a 5 Advanced exclusive. And it includes some really useful metering tools that some of our pro mastering engineers requested, like broadcast standard loudness metering for anyone working in TV or radio. They said, we need this, so we gave it to them. We have momentary, short-term, and integrated loudness. But also, if you like this about Ozone 4, we have K-system and peak loudness. So really, however you need to monitor your output, the idea is that you can. We have a vector scope with an EQ. Each of them is fully customizable. Oddly enough, I often work in this view. But again, it's personal preference. There's a lot of options to choose from. You can also get rid of something if you're not using it. Just pull those guys out, or put them back. So this last thing I'm going to show you before questions is the meter bridge. And it's either a 2D or a 3D spectrogram of our audio. So we can see in real time our audio by time, by frequency, and by amplitude. In 2D, amplitude is just represented by relative brightness. So if I throw it into 3D, we'll see it starts to get really cool. I can move this around, I can adjust the height. So we can increase the amplitude scale if you want to see it in more detail. You can move it around in all directions. And yes, it looks nice, but this is actually an incredibly useful tool because we added to Ozone 5 Advanced a little plugin called Meter Tap. Now, if you add a Meter Tap plugin to your mix bus, like your guitar or your drum track, what that does, it actually feeds an FFT in real time to the meter bridge. So I can look at just my kick drum. I can also look at my kick drum and my synths. So it's a really useful way to see exactly how each element in my mix relates to every other element in my mix. And when I make a change in the EQ or the compression stage, I like to then go in and look in the meter bridge and see how that may be affecting the balance between different elements in ways I might not necessarily be aware of unless I was able to see them. You can also bring that down. You can also, if you had several things at once, let me go back to the start where there is actually some lead vocal, and you just wanted to focus on the kick drum, you can click that and it throws everything else into grayscale. The best thing about this is that Ozone 5 being quite CPU intensive because it is a very advanced mastering tool, this actually runs off your graphics card using OpenGL, so it doesn't slow your CPU down. And just to put it in context, we're running Ozone 5 and Ozone 5 Advanced on both side kiosks with a Mac Mini. So if you're okay with a very small, like less powerful computer, probably you and I having much more powerful production workstations will have absolutely no problems at all. So that's basically the brief overview. I also suggest to anyone approaching Ozone 5 for the first time, or someone who's new to mastering, we do publish a mastering guide. It's an iBook, it's a PDF, you can download it from our website. You can also click through a ton of presets that were made, not just by us, but by some professional mastering engineers. So for beginners, if anyone you know also is trying to get into this, they can click through these presets and see, okay, maybe that's what they did, maybe understand why they did that, and then of course tweak them to make that change. And as I mentioned, and just to demonstrate to prove I'm not making this up, each of our individual modules are available separately. So I have Ozone 5 where I can just use just the compressor stage, I just wanted to use just the limiter, and it pops up like that. So that is basically Ozone 5 and Ozone 5 Advanced. The upgrade from 4 is $99 to Ozone 5. Retail, if you're coming in cold, is $249 for Ozone 5 and $999 for Ozone 5 Advanced. But definitely before you do that, download it. You can go to izotope.com/Ozone 5 and you get a 10-day free trial. And you can get a 10-day free trial of both Ozone 5 and then Ozone 5 Advanced if you want to see exactly how the advanced features may or may not help you. So that's it. If anyone has any questions,
Can you take a stereo file that's relatively dynamic and make it a black waveform? Let me see what you like. Take a preset and tweak it. I just want to kind of see what you do, where you kind of like, hedge and that sort of thing. Do you have?
Okay. Yeah.
What's your workflow?
Yeah, we can try that. So, I guess for the.
You send in a mix home with a client, for example. You know?
Okay. Yeah. So it might be easier just to pretend that this mix is a stereo mix because ultimately it's going to my master, which is a stereo master. So let's start from cold. And also I have the advantage of I know this mix, so I might be saying some things that might be hard to hear, but they are there. So typically I would